All right, so I think we are at time, so I think we can go ahead and get started. Again, welcome and thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon as we reimagine preparation for college and career readiness through a race-conscious lens. My name is Dr. Jonathan Davis, and I serve as a Senior Research Associate on the P12 team at EdTrust, and where I have the opportunity to support the organization's efforts in promoting and expanding access to advanced coursework opportunities and supporting the work on college and career readiness broadly. I am really excited for today's conversation and for a couple of reasons. At EdTrust, our pursuit of educational equity for Black and Latino students and students from low-income backgrounds has been unwavering. But the events of the last 20 months have served as a powerful reminder that our students matter and that educational equity matters as well. This boot camp has presented us all with an opportunity to pause, reflect, reimagine, rethink, and consider how best we rebuild systems, structures, policies, practices, and procedures that live up to this ideal and that push us ever closer to equitable educational opportunities for all students. And today's conversation is no different. Together, we're going to collectively reimagine how we support Black and Latino students as they prepare for college and career. At EdTrust, we have focused extensively on ensuring students from these groups have equitable access to advanced courses, whether AP, IB, or dual enrollment. And while we know that access to and support in succeeding in these courses is a necessary component for preparing for college, we also know that there are equally ways that we can and should explore, ways that unapologetically foreground and center race. So I'm really excited because today we're going to hear from folks in the field that are doing this work and who are doing it well. As an FYI, we have a blog series that's set to launch soon, that presents researchers, district leaders, students, and others with an opportunity to share how they're foregrounding race as they prepare young folks for college and career opportunities. And today we have a few of those authors here with us. So with that said, I'd like to briefly introduce and express my sincere gratitude to Mrs. Lindsey Peck, who serves as the director of DCPS Persist program with an S for DC Public Schools, Mrs. Joanna Ali, who serves as the director of curriculum and innovative instruction for the Black and Belonging Collaborative, and Mrs. Kia Ala, who serves as the director of youth equity programming with the Black and Belonging Collaborative as well. Thank you all so very much for your time and your partnership in this work. Now I'd like to welcome each of them to reintroduce themselves as well as the organizations and programs that they represent. And then I'll ask that they respond to the questions that we have presented on the screen here. Joanna, would you like to get us going?
Yes, I'll get us started. I am Joanna Ali, and I am also a doctoral student at NC State in the Educational Psychology program. And I'm also a partner in iScholar. So iScholar is a school-university partnership where we really do work in partnership with community and schools, educators, to really bring forth whatever schools are wanting. In support of like equitable spaces for Black youth, Black and Latino youth. And so just in terms of like the race conscious approach that we really think about is like creating the next generation of Black and Latino youth who are critically conscious and have tools to create the future that they envision for themselves and their communities. And it also means positioning students as creators and producers, not assuming that every student will take the path of college or pursuing careers that we deem successful careers for students. So helping students really be empowered with their voice and agency, and helping students view careers in ways that they're able to then help their community. So there's a lot of research behind re-engineering STEM careers towards social justice, and that is really what helps students see themselves within STEM careers, where oftentimes students are really looking at STEM careers in Eurocentric ways, and these really help them to go into STEM careers and have that STEM identity that we need for them to be creators within STEM fields. And also, there's also research behind how Black and Latino students are really tracked into these service sector jobs. So that's another reason why it's important to think of students as creators and producers and really figuring out ways to empower students in those ways.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joanna. Kia, I'd like to welcome you as well to both respond to these questions and to introduce yourself for everyone.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Kia Ali, and I am also a PhD student at North Carolina State University, and I'm in the Educational Equity Program. And so former teacher and a member of the iScholar team at NC State. So as far as what race conscious, like this approach to, preparing for college and career, like Joanna said, we really focus on, empowering our students, the students that we work with, and understanding that, they're going to need to navigate a racialized world. And so what comes with that is, being able to think critically and also to innovate, and think of what school says necessarily does, is how you prepare for college or career, is not the only path. There are more than one way to have a quote unquote successful life. And that doesn't mean that you need to leave part of who you are on the side as you kind of take that journey. And so just looking at kind of what our organization has done, we have essentially, we're all about empowering our participants, right? And so, for example, we had a group of youth researchers who, even during the pandemic, they organized these sessions called Freedom Fridays, where they, invited their peers to really like connect and get together in these virtual spaces, and they still were trying to hold conversations about issues of social justice or issues of race, issues of politics, things that were mainstream events outside of just pandemic, because having the understanding that even in that space and during that kind of disruption to their education, we supported students in trying to create an avenue for connection, and still driving the work forward and creating that space for themselves and for their peers. And so that was kind of one of the things that we did.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Kia. Lindsey, I'd like to welcome you to the stage now to, again, introduce yourself and then respond to the questions here on the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Jonathan, so much for including me and including DCPS Persists in the roundtable today. I'm Lindsey Peck, and I am the director for DCPS Persists, and that's out of the District of Columbia Public Schools in Washington, D.C. We are overall an alumni support program that began in 2020. And so we are fresh with our second batch of students who we're working with, where we take on the students who are college bound and help ensure that they are graduating from college in a few different ways. We do that. We have about 750 students a year who receive intrusive coaching from our staff, and who just are the folks who need a little bit of extra support in college. And so it's really the difference of them being able to overcome barriers or not. And then beyond individual student supports, we also have post-secondary partners who we're sharing information with and really trying to research what are the ways in which we can improve both DCPS supports as well as college supports in order to make the transition a little bit smoother for students. I think beyond that, our GCPS graduates who are primarily students of color and many first-gen students who might benefit from that support more than others. Our ultimate goal for Persists is to raise the college graduation rate for our students by 10% over the next over the course of our 5-year grant, which we are now almost halfway through, which is terrifying. And the program supported by a generous investment from the A. James and Alice B. Clark Foundation to help us get things launched. In terms of what a race-conscious approach to preparation for college and career means to DCPS, I think I'm really proud to work for DCPS for a lot of reasons, but one of them is DCPS's commitment to equity. Equity is a core part of our upcoming strategic plan, and the district has a detailed equity framework and team dedicated to ensuring that that doesn't just sit on a shelf, but is actually incorporated into the work that we do every day. While we know that equity, of course, is about interrupting bias and centering the needs of numerous marginalized groups, a key component of our equity framework is anti-racism, and that extends to college and career guidance and to DCPS Persist, so both on the K-12 side as well as beyond into college. The fact is that most DCPS students are students of color. 60% of our students identify as Black, 21% Latina, and many are first generation in their families to attend college. DC has one of the highest rates of residents who hold college degrees in the country, with lots of high-paying, high-growth industries, but yet we don't see that our students are the ones getting those jobs. And so that is really kind of the crux of why we need to be so conscious about our approach. At DCPS, we're building post-secondary pathways to ensure that our students are the ones taking advantage of the strong economy in the district in whatever way that they choose to do. And one of the first steps in that is, again, supporting students who are seeking 2- and 4-year degrees. I think even in college counseling in the K-12 world, DCPS has dug in more and more to try to understand where our students are doing well in college, and where are the places where they're not finishing. And so we've started guiding our students toward what we call smart college choices. And those are institutions where previous DCPS students have found success and have thrived and potentially graduated at higher rates. And so that we can ensure that students get connected to the right resources and opportunities once they get to campus. How have we worked to develop and implement race-conscious policies? It's quite a question to unpack. I guess I can start with the reality of how race and education and privilege play in our country means that most of our first-gen students are also students of color. And this group likely well knows that succeeding in college is not just about getting good grades and taking the required courses. There's hidden curricula, there's unwritten rules that first-generation students are less likely to understand, like how do I access resources on campus? How do I navigate all of the paperwork requirements, particularly if there isn't someone at home who can support them in navigating those things. Even things like, how do I find my group where I feel like I fit in, especially if I'm one of the only first generation or Black or Latino students on campus. This is where Persist comes in and can help. Our coaching team has a caseload of students for their first and second year of college, and they're there to provide one-on-one support for literally anything that the students need. And coaches share the lived experience of our students and have deep professional knowledge in college access and student success for first-generation students and students of color. And so they are well experienced in helping students navigate these landscapes. We also see that first-generation students are likely to run into challenges because of what may seem like small financial barriers to some, but to these students, they are almost insurmountable. And so as part of Persist, students in the program have access to a micro grant, $300 in their first 2 years of college each, to relieve the pressures of those unexpected costs and to support them with things like purchasing their books or getting a Metro card so that they can get transportation to school and secure housing, food, whatever they need in order to feel more secure, in order to be able to focus on their college experience. We have about 42%. We have about 42% of our students attending historically Black colleges and universities, and that's not even mentioning those who are attending Hispanic serving institutions. And so while, of course, many Black and Latino students do well at predominantly white institutions, those HBCUs and HSIs are really a critical part of our college strategy and important partners for Persists. One of the final points that I'll make, and then I'll be done, which is on the part of the smart college choices that I alluded to earlier. Those institutions are where students have historically done well, and we're recognizing more than smart choices are also smart financial choices. Black students in particular tend to face higher debt from college in a way that harms their future prospects. So our work is about helping students find the right academic fit, social fit, as well as financial fit, so that they can make the best decision for themselves and be aware of those race-based inequities.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lindsey. So just a flag again, this will be a roundtable discussion, so we will engage in a larger conversation based around some of the comments and remarks that our panelists have shared thus far. But welcome each of you to drop questions in the chat that you may have about the work, both as an opportunity to prime the pump for us, but also as an opportunity to track as we move forward. Immediately following the next 10 or so minutes, we'll have an opportunity to break out into smaller groups where you can engage in a more robust and direct conversation with each of the panelists as well. So if you have questions, please feel free to drop those now or just save on and hold on to those for a later time. But I want to go back to the iScholar team, both Joanna and Kia, and your remarks around ensuring that as students, particularly Black and Latino students, prepare for college, they stay connected to their community and don't lose track of their race and their culture. As a race-conscious approach to college and career readiness, we know that it foregrounds race, and you all have really done a great job of that with the iScholar program. I'm curious, what specific lenses have you all employed in the program to create these empowering spaces where students are both eager to come and to learn, and where their cultures, their values, their ideas, and their race are centered and celebrated? And then why did you choose those lenses specifically?
Yeah, so I'll start off. So first and foremost, we really take a critical lens that centers on understanding that Black and Latino students are in school systems that really perpetuate systemic racism, and where they're constantly being sent messages that they're less than, there are anti-Black messages embedded within school and throughout society, and really they're really seen from a deficit lens. And so we also think about this historically, where historically Black and Latino students were not accepted into schools. They were not accepted, respected, included, or supported when it comes to school systems. They were in spaces where people didn't want them to be. And although this seems to be decades ago, we're still seeing the same things in systems. And so with this critical lens, we really thought about using Afrofuturism. And Afrofuturism is a social, political, artistic movement that's not typically used in education. It's usually used in the realm of the arts. But using this lens really allowed us to center Blackness for our Black students, center like Indigenous culture for our Latino students, and really help them to connect with their ancestral heritage. So really thinking about looking back and really remembering all of their heritage that is cut out of curriculum, really centering their cultures now in the present, and then really helping them to have a vision for their future that's empowering, that's separate from really what they are experiencing now in school, and really countering the systemic racism that is present for students. And so we've also used a critical design process to help do the work and to help kind of take them through the process of deconstructing and looking at the system that they're in. Similar to like an engineering design process or design thinking that engineers use, but this process really can help with anything that students are trying to look at and become change agents within their communities with. So the process consists of like deconstructing, teaching students how to really counter Eurocentric perspectives and really know and call them out. Helping students with freedom dreaming and really having the space to dream about a future beyond white supremacy, and then helping students to really design and create these counter narratives and create a tangible product or create something that is going to go against what is typically barriers for students, and then giving them time to kind of iterate and develop what it is that they're designing and creating and having meaningful feedback from mentors. So that's sort of a broad overview of the lens we take, and the reason why we take it is to really counter all of the messages that students are sent on a daily basis, wherever they seem to be, these messages are there, and we want to give them tools to be creative thinkers to counter these messages.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Kia, I want to provide you with a space to add anything as well on that question.
I'll just add, oh, sorry, I've got some feedback on my end. I'll just add that, to what Joanna said, our focus really is about empowerment and creating the space for students to dream and to be able to imagine the world that's not as oppressive as the world that they've experienced thus far. And what we saw as we did that with students is we really saw them kind of come to life, and just relish in the possibility of, wait, so I can create something that reflects who I am. I can make this thing and have connections, deep connections to it in terms of my culture and my background. We really saw them thrive just because they were given a set of circumstances or a project of sorts that no one ever asked them, what should school look like? What do you think should be included? The physical space. There was no real understanding that it can reflect who they are. It's always been so sterile, and so they've been excluded from those educational spaces in terms of who they are and what they bring into the building. As Joanna said, kind of counter narratives, really working against the narrative that who you are and what you bring into the building or what comes with you in the morning has no place here. Because sometimes that's the messaging that Black and brown kids get. Your heritage, your background, the things that are important to you, the things that shape you as a person, we don't have a place for those here within the school walls. So we really wanted to, that's our motivation, and definitely why we chose, the lenses that we did, and arming them with skills because analyzing critically is a life skill. It works in this space, but it works in so many other spaces when they're able to do that, and really know how to maneuver and navigate once they've taken a look. So.
No, I really, really appreciate that. And I think about it as, we can have our cake and eat it too, as we think about how to prepare students, but also imagine and dream and envision a future that is not the present reality. So thank you all so much for the work that you do. I want to turn to Lindsey now. Lindsey, you mentioned something earlier that really piqued my interest. But just as a broad framing, DCPS persists, departs notably from what some might suggest is the final responsibility of local educational agencies, namely getting students to the graduation stage. But you all have decided to intentionally move beyond that point and to support Black and Latino students into getting into smart colleges and finishing. So in building out this particular program, how did you all navigate and negotiate those tensions and perceived responsibilities?
Yeah, great question. And before I start, I just want to acknowledge Joanna and Kia. Like, everything that you're saying is just so spot on, and my staff would be like so excited to hear you saying all these things because it connects so many pieces between what we're doing on this structural side to be able to create the space for programs such as yours to be able to flourish. And so thank you for that. Jonathan, you're right that persists really changed the paradigm in terms of what a school district should do. And especially given in DC where nearly 80% of jobs require a post-secondary degree, it is definitely not enough for us to be stopping at the graduation stage and saying, okay, go on to where you're going next. And so our chancellor, Dr. Farabee, and our entire leadership at DCPS is truly committed to supporting our students as they move beyond high school and into their alumni phase. One of the most important pieces of Persists is a model where we take advantage of collaborating with college partners. Persist has 5 college partners that are official and many others that are unofficial that we're kind of talking to every day to share information and make sure that students get the information that they need. The 5 official partners are colleges where DCPS students have attended in high numbers, that have other students on that campus that have a similar profile to DCPS students, and that is a high percentage of students of color, first-generation students, students with similar academic backgrounds. And the partner colleges work with us not only to support the students who are attending their institution who are part of Persists, but also to really engage about looking at the data. Why are some of our students struggling at these places? What are the barrier points or what are the pain points that students are facing the most? And we collect that from our coaches and get that back from the college partners as well, and collaboratively come to the table to say, what could these solutions look like? Because they're not only going to benefit the DCPS students who go to your institution, but also would be able to be scaled up to affect more than just DCPS students where you are. And that kind of scale up is revolutionary when it comes to retention, persistence, and students feeling like they're able to overcome barriers when they come up. And so that's one of the things that is a huge focus for us. It's a little bit unusual because typically the secondary partner, the K-12 system and the higher ed system aren't working collaboratively in this way yet until we started. And so we really think that establishing a continuous improvement cycle together, that includes data sharing, that includes regular touch points, that includes being honest with each other about the truths of our students, to be able to hear those voices are really what's going to impact and take things to a new level. And so that's really the biggest part of our college partnership is to try to make sure that there's a foundation beyond just DCPS that is supporting our students so that they feel like they have someone getting their back after they graduate.
That is so huge. Thank you so much, Lindsey. So again, want to encourage folks to drop questions in the chat. We see one question. We haven't forgotten about you, Donna. We will get to that as we come back from our breakout sessions, but we will now break into 2 breakout rooms at random. And this is, again, an opportunity for you to engage directly with both Joanna and Kia and Lindsey around the ways that they have supported students using a race-conscious approach to prepare for college and career opportunities. So as we get started here, we will break out and then in about 10 minutes or so, come back for some final Q&As and then wrap with next steps and discussion. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. We hope you all had a great time engaging with the panelists directly. We have a couple minutes left. I want to briefly just thank everyone for their time this afternoon and engagement in what is a new line of work at EdTrust, but an exciting line of work. Please stay tuned for the release of the blog series If you are not yet signed up for the equity line at EdTrust, please do so. The blog series is set to launch the week of the 25th of this month. And again, if you have any questions about this work, I'm sure the panelists will drop their emails in the chat, but you can also feel free to reach out to me directly at jdavis@edtrust.org. Want to give each of the panelists an opportunity to share any concluding remarks that they have with us before we break here. And I'm happy to guide that. Lindsey, I'm just wondering if, as you wrap up, what advice would you have for leaders and LEAs as they consider strategies to better support Black and Latino students for college prep opportunities as a send-off?
Yeah, I would say overall, representation matters. And so any support that you're giving to your students needs to have a relationship where those students are developing close ties and really trusting ties. And that really is the thing that runs the program, because our coaches or whatever staff that you have to understand what students are facing every day in order to be able to help them figure out what it means to get past any barriers, what it means to lift up any achievements that are happening. And we've really seen the best results from staff who share lived experiences with our students. And that could be their racial or cultural background, their shared experience as first generation students, or really anything else. But my biggest piece of advice is hire and support diverse people who can connect and relate to your students.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lindsey. Kia and Joanna, one of the hallmarks of the iScholar program is the connection between school, university, and community constituents. So as you all think about the program, what advice would you have for folks on the line here as they consider developing impactful and sustainable programs in their community?
Yeah, I think the school-university partnership is really important to really expand the way that universities and researchers are using their resources to really help communities and educators in schools. And the most important thing with that is really building authentic partnerships where you're not coming in with an agenda, but you're really there to serve in whatever capacity the institution needs, educators need. We've been in schools where we're just in classrooms talking to students, just really being present in the community, in the school without an agenda, and being a place where schools and institutions feel comfortable and are trusting that you have their students' best interest in mind. You are really able to help with resources. So we've brought students onto campus, doing field trips, and just really as people who are in communities, knowing that there are resources out there that universities have that can be used, and just knowing that partnerships should be authentic partnerships where things are co-developed, and not just where it's one-sided. You have stuff to add? Yeah.
Again, reiterating what Joanna and Lindsey have both said, relationships matter. Relationships are important. For us coming from the university or, the academic sphere, we have to get out, leave our campuses. You have to go into these communities, go into schools, meet with people, to really start to foster relationships. And like Joanna said, come to the work with how can I assist in mind, because a community and the schools and students, they are the ones who are the experts at what it is that they need or want. We can't come into it from this perspective of, well, I'm so well read, I've read this, I've read that, I know exactly what you need. That's not how it works. So just making sure that your partnerships are, they're authentic. I think, as Joanna said, that there's power that's being shared and built within that partnership. It's not all about you know, being in control. It's definitely coming from a place of, you know, how can the skills and resources that I have be best used to assist this school or this community or these students? Um, you know, and just I would say as a small piece of advice on both ends, it's okay to start small. It's okay if you're working on, you know, a relatively small project, or if you want to reach out to a university, you know, professors or some folks from the university and have them come in and work on something that's smaller. That's okay. Everything doesn't have to be like the big top program. Because what'll happen is that's how we build. If we think about it as in terms of relations, this is how we build relationships with people. This is how you build community. You know, it starts small, and I get to know you, I get to know where you're from, you know, where you're coming from, and you get to know me. And then that can always grow into, you know, more projects and more work where they've, you know, for us, that's kind of how it went with us, starting off small and then being pulled in. Hey, we would like to start this course, but we want to run it by you all. We would like some, you know, put you in an advisory kind of capacity. Um, Even in terms of hiring with teachers for a specific program with a district that we work with, you know, because they saw that our concern and the work we were doing was genuinely about students and about their betterment and about um, changing their educational experiences. And so you never know where that'll take you. Um, just come into it willing to work and definitely willing to make genuine connections.
Awesome. Thank you all so, so much. This has been an exciting conversation and an exciting introduction to this new line of work at EdTrust. Again, please be on the lookout for the blog series, which is set to launch again at the end of this month. And with that said, I will give folks back some time and officially end the session, but please feel free to follow up with any questions or comments that you might have by responding directly to the email that was previously shared, and we will go from there. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your boot camp, and we look forward to seeing you soon.